March 19th, 2001. We begin with like what has to be their 93rd funeral segment since Halloween Havoc. R.I.P. for DDP. They're playing taps. They show a flag at half mast. There are shots of a trailer park in the background. And we get clips of Steiner retaining his title against DDP agreed last night. So Steiner and Flair and that whole crew is coming out for a promo when Tony Schiavone says the following words, which actually, this part I did write down word for word. Fans, a very, very important announcement to begin our telecast. Less than an hour ago, we learned here tonight in Gainesville that at some point we will get a live call from Eric Bischoff. A live telephone call. And Eric has a huge announcement to make. We can only wonder and speculate exactly what Eric's huge announcement is. I bet there's a lot of wondering and a lot of speculating going on, especially after the announcement.
Dude, there's a lot of people on the internet, but I mean, it certainly was not as many as today. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there were a lot of people on the internet, but those that were closely following wrestling on the internet, the wrestling audience, I don't know, maybe 10%. So you're talking like 90% of the viewers of this television show, they've just been fucking watching Nitro. And all they know is there are going to be some new owners coming in. But, you know, they've had so many owners, presidents, commissioners, that I'm sure nobody thought it was anything but bullshit. And all of a sudden, there's just like, tonight there's going to be an announcement. And when we get to the announcement, oh boy, I want to talk about that announcement.
So Steiner brags about beating Page. Now he's on the outside looking in, just like Sting and Kevin Nash and Sid Vicious and Goldberg. He buries all the white trash fans. Flair brags about teaming with Jarrett to beat Dusty and Dustin Rhodes the night before. Schiavone cuts him off. That's an outright lie, he says. And Flair says, I should have made Dusty kiss my gator ass tonight here in Gainesville. At this point, the Rhodeses appear on the screen.
I just loved when Flair claims that they won the match, which they did not. And Tony Schiavone is appalled. He goes, that's an outright lie, and I'll talk all over him to say it.
Yes.
Even at the end, when people thought that Tony sucked, he actually was very good. He was just in a shitty position.
You know what? That's actually a good point. We haven't talked about it much, but as much as everything else went off the cliff in WCW over the years, Tony Schiavone was still doing his job, for the most part, very well.
He was the one constant.
Yeah. Well, there was a reputation that at the end, like, he sucked and all the commentators sucked. And I mean, if you want to compare them to, like, you know, 1988 NWA or Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, yeah, they sucked, but most of that was because, like, no one ever told them what was going on. They had no idea what was going on. You know, they were just kind of doing whatever they could to try to get through each taping. It fucking sucked there. Everybody hated it. But, I mean, despite all that, I mean, it was not as bad as people remember. He did a lot better job than people recall.
Yes. So Dusty Rhodes is on the screen talking about winning the night before. Jarrett kissed his big white ass the night before. Flair's going to kiss his big white ass tonight. His line about Jarrett, I can't believe he actually said this on TV, and it made TV. Jarrett puckered those lips up and kissed old Brownie One Eye.
That's what he said.
Old Brownie One Eye.
Wow.
Dustin is just aghast in the background.
Well,
fucking horrifying.
I was aghast in my room. So Dusty brings out Booker T in his new hairdo. Steiner says Booker T's been gone so long he forgot where the barbershop was. A very 2020 reference.
Sure was.
If you look hard enough, you can find one.
Yeah. Booker.
My hair's getting longer every day. I fucking cut it off right before this happened. Now it's going to be long again by the time I can go back to the barber.
I might have found a Mark Barber last week.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah.
On the underground. Yeah. Booker steals...
The dark web.
The dark web.
That would be the brunette web.
That's true.
Booker steals Chris Jericho's "Please shut the hell up" line. He tells Steiner, "I've been talking to the man." And Steiner says, "What do you mean? The man's right here." And he points to Ric Flair, who's still CEO. And Booker says, No, I mean the man. And he says, "Steiner, you be back here in an hour, and you bring the gold." And you have clips of DDP getting taken out in an ambulance at Greed. So, backstage, Buff Bagwell and Road Warrior Animal, they're watching the replay of when Buff was mysteriously attacked backstage. And this is being shot by Buff's personal cameraman, the guy making the documentary Buff has hired to film them.
God, it's too bad this place went out of business. I'm dying to see that documentary.
So they're very mad at the cameraman for not getting the attack itself. They still don't know who's doing it. Animal talk. They list off all the victims who've been laid out at one point or another.
Okay, let me ask you a question here. Okay, so one by one, members of the Magnificent Seven, or whatever their stupid group name is now, they've been laid out, okay? So why is the assumption that it must be somebody within the Magnificent Seven? Is it just they're such cocky heels that they can't imagine that anyone could take them out except one of their own? At least they could say that.
When this is done, Animal and Buff have come to the conclusion that Lex Luger must be doing it, and they send the cameraman to find Lex. That's all I know. I don't know why they think it's Lex. I don't know what evidence they have that it might be Lex.
None.
It doesn't make any sense. Jason Jett versus Disco Inferno.
This match. This match was actually pretty good.
Yes.
But, I mean, they're in there, and Jason Jett, he actually made a great comeback.
Dude,
he's doing every crazy move in the world. Handspring elbow, standing moonsault, all these spots. And then he hits a suplex and gets the pin.
Oh, that happens.
I was like, what?
He's stealing Canyon's gimmick.
So Disco now is best friends with Mike Sanders out of nowhere. He says that Jason Jett last week beat that bum Alex Wright. Or excuse me, he says this bum Alex Wright. He's taking a promo to Alex Wright. Says, Alex, this bum beat you last week. Now watch me do what you couldn't do, you big bald loser. And then of course Jason Jett beats him and essentially beats him and Mike Sanders at the same time. Sanders is in the ring for like half this match. Ref either has to pretend not to see it for like minutes at a time or just doesn't care. And it didn't matter because Sanders got beat up and Disco got pinned and Jason Jett won, so there you go.
Hey, they're trying to push new people. I got to give them credit.
With that said, I watched this a scant 5 weeks ago, and this guy was a seamstress or something like that. He made gear, correct?
Yes.
And this is what he put on display to show that he can make gear.
There's trunks and knee pads and boots like any wrestler, and then it's kind of these stocking things running down the side to the knee pads.
Right.
Maybe he was busy making money selling all the good gear.
It looked like something that Naomi would wear, almost.
Kind of. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but Buff and Animal sent their camera guy to find Lex Luger, right?
That's what I heard.
Okay. The cameraman is walking around and narrating his own video, saying, I've got to find Rick Steiner. He goes to Rick Steiner's room. This looks like Rick Steiner's room, he says, and he pokes open the door, and there's Flair and Jarrett having a meeting. And Flair is vowing he will not kiss any ass tonight. And the cameraman says, I don't need to hear this. And he leaves. All right.
Whatever. I got bigger fish to fry.
Shane Helms is in the ring cutting a promo. He promised to win the Cruiserweight title, and here she is, he says, holds up his new belt. But this comes with a blemish. I earned this title shot at Super Brawl in a match I was not supposed to be in. I was taking the place of Billy Kidman. And Billy Kidman, you beat me once, but I beat you once. Now I need to prove it to myself. Let's get it on.
All right, allow me for a moment. So it's Kidman versus Shane Helms, and it's just a whole bunch of moves. Move. I mean, it's good, but it's like just a bunch of spots. And Kidman tried to powerbomb early, but failed. He should know better. And so, if you recall on Raw, they did a fake pee angle, where Chris Jericho fake peed in William Regal's tea, and William Regal drank the fake tea, but the fans were all horrified, and they screamed in horror over something that was fake.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in this match, they're doing their match, and Helms grabs him, and he lifts him up in Gory's special position, and Kidman is upside down, and Shane Helms drops for the vertebraker, and fucking Kidman lands right on his goddamn head, and now the fans scream over something real. They gasp. They think that Kidman is dead. It's
I thought
fucking
Kidman was
brutal.
dead.
Okay. So apparently, when the match is over, Kidman stumbles through the curtain. Everyone's making sure that he's alive. And they're like, what the fuck happened? You landed on your fucking head. And Kidman basically said, well, I know I'm supposed to tuck my head, but I didn't.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, he's not wrong.
He was just upside down. And
With his arms hooked.
And he knew he was supposed to tuck his head, but for whatever reason, he didn't. And he got dropped right on his goddamn head and almost killed.
It was beyond terrifying.
So it was a good thing that they eventually got rid of the vertebreaker in WWE, because even when you know, just like it's happened with the Styles Clash, I mean, sometimes just shit goes awry. And when it goes awry with the vertebreaker, you almost die. So that's what happened here.
Now, the good news is it was the finish.
And he didn't die.
You're not. No, that's also good news. It was the finish, and he did not die. So Helms wins. Obviously, he's immediately attacked by Chavo and Elix and Kid Romeo, and then Ray Jr. makes the save, and the ghost of Billy Kidman was there, helping to avenge his death and turn the tide. Next week, we are told it's spring break out of Panama City.
No,
and the huge season finale.
It sure was.
You know what? We might have overthought this. We were talking about black tie affair. I'm thinking Hawaiian shirts and leis.
Let's show up in bikinis.
That's not going to happen.
Dude, I'll do Hawaiian shirts.
I got one. I would much rather wear a Hawaiian shirt than a tie.
That's true.
All right, fine. We're going to go all Panama City next week. Got it, everybody?
Excellent.
I need to find some bleach for my hair.
The camera guy finds Lex Luger. He has been killed. Bam Bam Bigelow says, agreed. We saw somebody screw somebody else over. We saw a man who needed a woman to fight his battles in the ring. He has a rematch against Shawn Stasiak tonight, and Stasiak will have to fight his battles by himself. And he says, Bam Bam Bigelow is going out there to prove one thing. And that's to prove a point.
Right.
That's definitely one thing.
So, the announcers, I know I just talked about how they weren't as bad as we all remember them being. Like an hour into the show, the announcer's like, wait a minute. Eric Bischoff's calling. Booker T said he talked to the man. Eric Bischoff must be the man.
Right.
They figured it out. Animal and Buff tend to Lex, who's not dead, it turns out. But they say they've all been laid out at one time or another. I see, it wasn't you, it wasn't me, it wasn't Lex. Jarrett and Flair are busy, they say. That only leaves one person. Has anyone talked to Rick? So even though the camera guy had been searching for Rick Steiner this whole time, now they're looking for Rick. A bad show, this Nitro. Stacy Keibler comes out for a promo. She wants a bigger ovation next time, but now she wants to introduce us to the Shawn and Stacey show, and the star of the show, the mecca of manhood, Shawn the Star Stasiak.
God bless Shawn Stasiak. Sure, he's a nice guy, but fuck. Who the fuck thought this was like a great idea for a pairing? Shawn Stasiak and Stacy Keibler? He comes out, he cuts a promo. Honest to God, it's fine. Like, it's definitely not great, but...
It is Pro Wrestling Heel 101.
Well, I mean, she comes out and she's like, I expect a bigger ovation from you people next time. I'm like, this is the most bottom of the barrel heel bullshit. Then he comes out and he goes, I out-finessed and out-wrestled Bam Bam Bigelow last night. I have no idea why the fans cheer Bam Bam. Oh, I know why. They're fat, out-of-shape, beer-drinking slobs that only wish they could look as good as me. I'm like, dude, is it the fucking 80s? What the fuck is this shit? So he calls out Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam Bigelow comes out. Despite what Shawn Stasiak said in his promo, there was a distinct lack of finesse in this match. None whatsoever. They just do a bunch of shit. Stacy throws a fucking bottle of hairspray to Bigelow. Bigelow gets it, but he doesn't use it. Instead, he drops Stasiak on his head with the Asbury Park driver. He gets the pinfall, and he wins.
I know you misspoke and said she threw a bottle of hairspray to Bam Bam. She really threw it to Bam Bam.
Yes, I did not misspeak. I only speak about what happened in reality. So then Stasiak has another fucking promo.
Now, what's amazing about the match and this segment that's happened is it's amazing how much awful stuff they packed into such a very, very short time.
Oh, yes.
This went like a minute. But afterwards, both Sean Stasiak and Bam Bam Bigelow are completely blown up.
Okay, so they're blown up, and I know there's a lot of shit that we say, oh, this is a very famous moment. But I watched this fucking segment that I'm about to recap here for you, and I have no fucking idea how this segment did not fly under the radar. So Stasiak says the only reason Bigelow won was because he cheated. Bigelow says, I didn't cheat. I won clean in the middle. And Stasiak says, I want a rematch. Bigelow says, what's in it for me? Stasiak says anything. Bam Bam Bigelow then says, how about tattoos? Bam Bam Bigelow cuts this promo. He says, you know how awesome it is when a little bitch is sitting in that tattoo chair and she's crying and she's in so much pain that eventually, sometimes she just passes out, which is a bonus. I was like, what in the fuck? What in the fuck did that guy just say? I rewound it, and in fact, he said, you know how awesome it is when a little bitch is sitting in a tattoo chair, and she's crying, and she's in so much pain that sometimes she even passes out, which is just a bonus. I fucking almost fell out of my goddamn chair. How the fuck does nobody talk about this? This was the craziest thing I've heard a babyface say. So he wants a tattoo. He wants a tattoo next week if he wins. Stasiak says, oh yeah, Stacy's all for that. She's not all for it. And he goes, I'll take the match. And Bigelow goes, I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about you. You, the prissy little thing, he says. I'm talking about you, Stasiak. That's their match for next week. I was aghast. I was fucking aghast watching this segment.
I was right there with you. As Bam Bam Bigelow, the alleged babyface, is talking about tears rolling down her face as needles are ripping through her skin. Like, Jesus.
What in the
God.
fuck?
Yeah, no good. No good, this show. So Scott Steiner comes out. It's time at the top of the hour. It's time for the phone call. And Terry Taylor is out there with a table, but Steiner immediately throws all the furniture out of the ring. Booker T comes out. He reveals that the man is, in fact, Eric Bischoff. So shut up and listen.
Okay, so there was so much going on at this time that I never watched this Nitro again. And there was so much stuff behind the scenes to talk about that was fascinating. So this is the first time in 19 years that I've listened back to this Eric Bischoff phone call on Nitro. And it is amazing. Eric Bischoff calls in, and he sounds like he's at a funeral.
You've never heard a man so defeated.
He is defeated. He is depressed. He is just the most miserable Eric Bischoff you've ever heard. And he says, I would love to be there tonight, but it's just not possible. For the past 6 months, I have been working with a group of people to acquire World Championship Wrestling so that we can rebuild it again. And by the way, they were so far along, he thought, that they actually issued a press release announcing that they had successfully purchased the company.
Yes. I believe they announced it on Nitro at one point.
It was in the newspapers. It was a press release. It was all over the country. But then, as it turns out, at the last second, Turner canceled Nitro and Thunder. And without television, the company was worth nothing. Mm-hmm. And then they offered it to Vince McMahon for $2.5 million and an agreement to buy X number. It was like $2 million worth of ads over the next God only knows how long. Vince bought it, and Eric was fucked. And Eric says, we've run into some roadblocks that may, in fact, be brick walls. He says, while I'm still in power, I want to do everything for what could be the last night of wrestling on Turner Networks, which, in fact, it was for 19 years. I want to provide an exciting program. Every title will be up for grabs next week, including the Cruiserweight title, the Cruiserweight Tag titles, the U.S. title, and the World title. Steiner, you will be facing Booker T, title versus title. I want to extend an open invitation to any former heavyweight champion to join us in Panama City and bring your boots. Flair, I know we've had a rocky relationship, I'll say, but I have a lot of respect for what you've done for wrestling. But with all due respect, you need to kiss Dusty Rhodes' ass tonight. And he hangs up. That's, by the way, the final words from Eric Bischoff as he announces to the world that it's done. That Ric Flair needs to kiss Dusty Rhodes. Which, by the way, is ironic. His final parting words. So, what's amazing to me is that he even fucking bothered. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's done, but he's still bothered to book a show for next week. And he books all of these matches, and you got to remember that, like, there was a fair number of people in WWE or WCW that thought, this is not real. It's all part of Eric's plan. He's bought the company. It's all a work. And next week or the week after or, you know, in April or whatever, it's all going to be rebuilt and we're going to be back in action again. There were a lot of people that believed that. Lots of people. But if you watch this segment, like, you can see, like, Flair doesn't give a fuck because he's done. But, like, Scott Steiner's got his sunglasses on and he fucking looks like he's crying. And Booker T's there on the aisle and he's got a very, very morose look on his face. And I think they knew that this was it. It was all over. And the best they could hope for is they were going to get signed by whatever happened. Like, if Vince bought it, Vince would bring him in or whatever. But you could see there were people in this segment that, man, they knew this was a grave situation. And the fans, like, none of the fans had any idea what's going on. They're just cheering like it's an angle or whatever. But, man, this was amazing to watch. This was fucking amazing to watch.
It's just, I would love, maybe at some point Eric Bischoff has talked about what was going through his head at this moment. But it sounds like two things. First of all, like you say, he thought he had a deal done until the very last second, and the deal did not get done. But there also had to be part of him and part of everyone who thought, my God, it took us less than 3 years to kill this place. Things were going so well, and it went south so quickly.
I promise you that going through his mind was not, it took us 3 years to kill this place. He was thinking about being screwed and AOL Time Warner and how it's everybody else's fault except his, which we've heard for 19 fucking years, by the way. And I would bet you anything that when he said there's a big roadblock, I'll bet you he thought there's a 2% chance I could pull this off in the next week. So he continued to do his show just in case.
Sure. So after he's done, there's a brawl and a melee, and Steiner and Booker and security are all out there. Eventually, Booker clears the ring, and that's that. So Buff tells Jarrett and Flair that the rest of the gang is going to go confront Rick Steiner. They're convinced he's the one who has been attacking them. Flair says, I don't care. I am concerned with not kissing Dusty Rhodes' ass. He respects all of them, but he's got a problem. Jarrett tells them to deal with it themselves, and as they're shuffling off to do whatever, Ric Flair is just screaming to the ether, I cannot kiss ass! Am I Smooth versus Canyon? Okay, this match sucked.
Yes.
But, holy crap, the stuff Am I Smooth could do. Like, he's out there, he's fucking up atomic drops, he's taking backdrops on his ass, but then this, I don't know, 6'4", 300-plus pound monster, he did the most amazing standing splash in this match. It looks like he's jumped off the top rope, but no, he's just jumped 8 feet in the air with his 300-pound body and comes smashing down onto Canyon.
Dude, this Am I Smooth was a big, strong man.
This is a hoss.
And, you know, you can compare him to, like, Keith Lee, because Keith Lee does the high leapfrog and then the big drop kick. And Am I Smooth did a leapfrog in this match. It was so fucking high. And I just watched it and I thought, this guy is even more agile and athletic and just as big as Keith Lee. But this was like his last match. Mm-hmm. After this, he was done.
Because when he wasn't doing the cool stuff, his in-between stuff sucked.
I realize that, but man, he was so talented. This fucking guy was a talent. And he was charismatic.
Yeah.
And this was it. He was done.
Yeah. So, among the reasons it sucked, it's not just the fault of the men in the ring. Randomly, Animal comes out and DDTs Am I Smooth, and Canyon wins. The Cat runs out and fights them both off, and this leads to Cat challenging Canyon Chris Canyon and Road Warrior Animal versus the Cat and M.I. Smooth in a tag team match for the very last episode of Thunder. Mm-hmm. What? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Brian and I recapped the Greed pay-per-view back before everything went to hell. And everything they did with Dusty in the Kiss My Ass match on that show, they did again on this show. Dustin has a giant tray of burritos. Dusty cuts the exact same promo on the burritos. They're working their way down his body, down to my saddlebags. It's going to be very stinky when Ric Flair kisses my ass. Rick Steiner versus Conan. Now, I know WCW has been dead for 19 years, but part of me thinks somewhere this match may still be going on. Which is amazing, because it only went like 3 minutes, but it was the longest 3 minutes of my entire life. Like, nothing happened and it sucked, but it was short. I was like consciously aware it had not been that great amount of time, but it felt like I was like stuck in an airplane.
Just, you know, days go forever right now. Days last so long. This felt like half my day. This was so bad, and it was all Conan's fault.
Conan's completely blown up. They're doing just long chin locks. Nothing is happening. Part of me thinks it's supposed to go a minute, and Shane Douglas missed his cue. Eventually, he comes out there, and this match has sucked, and it's been boring and awful, and then Shane runs in and just hits Rick for the DQ. I very nearly lit my laptop on fire.
No, dude, I didn't. I was watching this, and it's one of those Rick Steiner matches where, for whatever reason, when it's time to sell, he sells. But then, when he's done selling, he beats the shit out of you.
Yes.
He's fucking punching Conan right in the face. Conan's holding his nose. And when Shane Douglas ran in, my first thought was, if I'm Conan, I fucking kick this guy's ass. Why didn't you run in early? I was out here getting my ass handed to me, and you took an hour to come out here.
Now, do you think Rick was giving him a little bit of receipt because he was screwing things up so badly?
No, this was what Rick was doing to everybody for weeks, if you recall.
There is that.
And then, so it's a DQ, and then I don't know where Shane went, he just left, and Rick, he's selling the cast shot. He's down, he's grabbing his head, he's hurt, and then he stops, and he gets up, and he punches Conan out more, and eventually Hugh Morris makes the save. So all of Rick Steiner's buddies backstage confront him and accuse him of being the one who's been taking them out. He says, there's nothing going on. I just got out of the ring. I know you guys 8, 10, 12 years. I never jumped on any of you guys. I'm going to go cool off. You better be gone when I get back. And I hope for these men's sake they were gone when he got back. Lance does a promo where he must have planned a 1 minute promo, and they told him you got 10 seconds to go because he's talking 1,000 miles an hour. Last night, me and Mike Awesome beat Hugh Morris and Conan. Now we have a non-title match. After we beat Palumbo and O'Hare, we will get a title shot. There's not a team alive that we can't out-wrestle or beat up. Sooner or later, those belts are ours. So Flair backstage is with Jarrett. He's still panicking. He says, it's the moment of truth. And Jarrett says, you're the CEO. Act like the boss. So it's Lance Storm and Mike Awesome versus Sean O'Hare and Chuck Palumbo.
Okay, so if you recall, Palumbo and O'Hare faced Luger and Bagwell on the last show, which we talked about like 2 months ago.
On the pay-per-view.
And yes, they have a shitty 2-minute match. No, it was Nitro, I think.
But anyway, it was the pay-per-view. It was the Greed pay-per-view.
Is that true, Vinny?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Anyway, whatever. So they do this short, shitty match, and then they go through the curtain and they say, that's all we could get out of them.
Right.
So it's Palumbo and O'Hare versus Lance and Mike Awesome. And Lance and Mike Awesome go in there, and they fucking have a great match with these two guys.
Yes, they do.
And Lance is bumping his ass off all over the place, and that's your fucking job as a worker, to make the other guys look like $1 million. And that's what Mike Awesome and particularly Lance did here in this match. They're just doing all of this stuff, and Palumbo and O'Hare look great. Lance is selling for him like crazy. This big comeback. The place goes crazy for Palumbo making this comeback. Everything's going great. And then, of course, Mike Awesome grabs a chair, and he's supposed to hit Palumbo from behind. He hits him right in the back of the fucking head.
So hard.
Almost kills him, busts him open. Palumbo's half dead, and Awesome hits a powerbomb, and Lance and Mike Awesome get the pin. But, man, dude, Jesus.
This chair shot.
My guess, okay, is that Lance and Palumbo and O'Hare and these guys were all going to get signed to WWE one way or the other when WWE bought the company. Because, of course, WWE went through and I forget, it was like 24 contracts or something like that they picked up from WCW. But, you know, I would not say that it is impossible that this match here got these guys hired. Because they all looked so fucking good in this match. Like, how could you not watch this match if you're WWE and not say, I want all these guys? So, it was great. But Luger and Bagwell, fuck, they couldn't get anything out of these guys.
Yeah.
Like it was the other guy's fault.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this chair shot to finish this match was actually more violent than the vertebreaker we saw earlier in the show.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm pretty sure these same two teams had a match a couple months back. I specifically remember Mike Awesome and Sean O'Hare being in the ring together. And all I can remember from that match was it was so good when Lance was in there and so bad when he was not. Well, this match, for the most part, was good all the way through. And either Mike Awesome just did better, or Sean O'Hare and Chuck Palumbo were improving rapidly. I like to think the latter. And, yeah, it was by far the best match of the night on either show. And then Mike Awesome had an ECW moment, thought it was Masato Tanaka, and just destroyed a chair and a head. So it's time for the big finish. Flair and Jarrett come out. They call out Dusty Rhodes and his big fat white ass. And Dusty Rhodes comes out first and says, I'm going to introduce you to my father, Dusty Rhodes, and his big fat white ass. And I actually wrote down, Dusty comes out with his big fat white ass. And lo and behold, Dusty comes out with a big fat white ass.
Yes.
As in a barnyard animal.
A donkey with Dusty's ass written on its ass.
In case you didn't get the joke.
This is the second to last Nitro. This is the last legitimate... This is the main event segment of the last pure Nitro in the history of pro wrestling.
That's fitting. That's very fitting.
The donkey's name was Thilvadala, baby. Or something like that.
So Flair and Jarrett argue about which one of them will kiss the ass. I can't do it, you do. I can't do it, you do it. This is a ruse. They jump Dustin together. They beat him up. Dusty saves. There's a big four-way brawl, and they just drag the heels over to the ass. They kiss the top part of the back in front of the tail. I'm like 90% sure I would have kissed this ass where they kissed it instead of kissing Dusty's ass.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. But the best part is, like, the baby faces shove the heels faces into the ass of the ass. And Jarrett, like, his face hits and then he starts selling and running away. Flair's just like...
Milking.
Yes.
Milking is the wrong word.
That
Eating the ass is the wrong term.
That is.
But man, he's there for a long fucking time. And then he does his big Ric Flair sell and he's going crazy. And I was just watching this and it's funny because, like, you know, Flair cried for any reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything that happens in wrestling, Ric Flair cries.
Sure.
But man, WCW is dying. He's kissing a horse's ass, and he's like, fuck, I'm making the most of this. He's just, I mean, he's so glad this is done. He is over WCW.
The load is off his shoulders. This is the best thing to happen to him in years.
Yes, he is auditioning for a job here, and he did a hell of a job doing so.
So there you go, everyone. One Nitro to go.
One left.
One left, everybody. It's the Panama City Nitro. Let's do Vinny's music, and then we'll wrap it up.
The finishes on this show were pin despite all sorts of interference, pin via murder, pin despite attempted interference, pin after interference, DQ due to interference, and pin after chair shot.